Hey guys, it's Gav here, doing a quick live stream, and I'll let you guys get in there. We have a really cool story tonight that's absolutely true, and I just wanted to take a few minutes to tell you guys this story of something that happened down in Nevada at these kangaroo court trials being run against the political prisoners down there. And we have trials all across the nation. It doesn't matter if you're Native or Mexican or black or white or Christian or Muslim or patriot or left or right. The persecution persists. And there's this really neat story. And go ahead and share this, like this, interact with this in some way, right? Because you're going to want to hear this story. And I'm just giving you a second. Hello, everybody. Good evening. I'm going to be heading home here in just a few minutes. Hey, John. Good to see you. Good job getting the word out down there. And I want to tell you a story of something that happened a week or so ago down in Nevada. And this is the story of the man who cried treason. And this is a really important story, and I don't know why it hasn't been talked about more. And the man's name is Robert. Now, at the trials a week or so ago, the trial was going on, and the judge was in court. Judge Navarro was in the fake court, guarded by the fake law enforcement U.S. Marshals that are there with guns to make sure no one stands up, no one speaks out, no one resists, right? But what have we been saying? What have I said? What have others said? We have to resist. We have to stand up. What did Ammon and Ryan do? They stood up, and they're still doing it. Did you know that even now they're in solitary confinement? They're still being tortured and abused in these jail cells. Because even in chains, they're saying we're sick of being abused. And so the trial's going on in Nevada. And picture this. All these people are in the courtroom. The defendants are there. They've been in jail for over a year. This is the first batch of Bundy Ranch defendants. And they're in this courtroom, and the judge is presiding over this absolute lie. It's not a jury trial. A jury trial assumes that the jury is hearing the facts and the evidence and weighing on it. They simply have a body of people that were handpicked by the government and that think that they're hearing the evidence, and they're not actually even hearing the evidence. And that jury right now, as I'm telling this story, is still in deliberations as these men sit, as other trials are still being delayed, as people are being held without bail. Now picture this court where everybody's sitting there watching. And the judge is in the process of denying evidence. Of course, according to the Constitution, the judge cannot deny any evidence you present. If you're being accused, you can present any evidence you need on your behalf. You can have any witness you need. And yet the judge has denied their witnesses. The judge has denied their evidence. The judge has silenced their attorneys. And everybody's afraid. Picture this court, because these marshals have been harassing people. And the more people have complied and said, just try and get along, right? We got to get through this. The more people have complied, the more the marshals have abused them, to the point where the Constitution, the physical Constitution, is not even allowed to be in someone's pocket in the courtroom. Picture that. Picture that level of fear as they rifle through your belongings, and you're in the court, and anyone who does anything the slightest bit off will be harassed, perhaps even arrested, followed, bullied by these pretend marshals who will say they're doing their job when in fact they're doing the opposite of their job. And as the judge is denying this evidence, a man named Robert, a middle-aged man with kind of long hair and a beard, he stands up in that courtroom in the middle of the judge denying that evidence. And he holds out a Bible in his hand and he cries, "Treason, treason, treason." And the court stops. And everyone's afraid. What's going to happen next? And the man turns. Of course, he knows he'll be ejected from the courtroom. But he turns and he's walking out of the courtroom as the marshals and the fake audience, the fake informant audience, a few of them get up too, and they're following him out, right? Now Kelly is in the courtroom, and she's a young woman down there watching this who's been bold the whole time. This man gets up and he walks out, and he's being followed by all these terrorist, treasonous officers as he says treason to this judge and calls her out with a Bible in his hand. And no one gets up as he's being followed out of this courtroom, because everyone's afraid that they'll be arrested too. Now, I'm not here to shame anybody. I'm not here to say, well, so-and-so should have done differently. Because we can learn from this without that. This man had the courage to do what should have been happening months ago. Because the more you comply in a fake court, in a kangaroo court, to a treasonous tyrant. See, it's not about violence. It's not about starting a revolution. The more they complied in Nevada, the more they fell for this idea that we have to get along. The more they went for the narrative that some of the loyalists and fearful were promoting there, the more they went for the narrative that said, you need to do what you're told, the worse the tyranny became. And so this one man, Robert, stands up and he cries treason, and he walks out of the courtroom, and as he leaves, Kelly's looking around and she's saying, well, why is nobody following him out? There should be a group of people. The whole court should have rose up. See, the timing would have been perfect. The entire courtroom should have stood on their feet and erupted in unanimous affirmation of this treason right in front of the jury. Because when everyone stands, it's very hard for them to stop it. The people didn't need to start a fight. We didn't need to start a fist fight. We just need to stand up, like Robert did. What a piece of courage that took, to stand up in that courtroom that for months has been decimating these men's rights and the Constitution, and to say treason. Treason. And so as Robert leaves the courtroom, he's followed out by a pack of thugs, of Gestapo. And no one gets up. And so Kelly's looking around frustrated. And so she gets up and she bustles her way through the crowd, annoyed and frustrated, because everyone's afraid. We're afraid. We've been complying for so long that we're afraid to stop complying. And she follows him out. And as she's following him out, one of the Gestapo is radioing down saying, a man's coming down in a green shirt, detain him. And he goes down, and Kelly goes down, and this man's being interrogated and detained and searched. And Kelly just stands up and watches. And she says, what are you doing to this man? This man spoke the truth. The first truth that has been spoken in this courtroom in months has been spoken by this man. You leave him alone. And the marshals, the Gestapo, they tried to make Kelly leave. They said, you need to leave. You don't need to be here. And she said, I'm not going anywhere until this man is either freed or taken away under arrest. And the man says, Robert says, am I free to go? And they say, you're not free to go. You're being investigated. And they're hiding behind pillars as they surround this man. They're skulking around like hyenas and terrorists. See, our government's doing what we picture ISIS does. But our government are the terrorists. Our government, our courts, our officers, our judges are the terrorists. And so for months we've been waving flags, and people have been saying, oh, I got my guns, or they've been making macho posts on Facebook. But Robert stood up with a Bible in his hand, and he showed us what it looked like, just like Lavoie did in Oregon, and Ammon and Ryan Payne and Jerry DeLoomis and many others did. See, this should be happening every day. A treasonous court should not be allowed to continue without resistance. And it doesn't mean we fight everything to the bitter end. Maybe we allow ourselves to be thrown out and not allowed back in the courtroom. Maybe we just do it once and then we leave, and we know they're not going to allow us back in. But you know what? The words treason spoken in that courtroom had more power than any words that any of these lawyers who are playing along have spoken in this entire trial. A middle-aged man with a Bible and a beard stood up in that courtroom, and he brought his courage, and he did a simple act that should not be fearful to do in a courtroom. And he stopped that courtroom. And you could almost hear the heartbeats as people were sitting there thinking, I don't want to do anything, I'll be included, as they were afraid to stand up next to their brother. The lesson from this is that we all have to stand up, that we have to stop complying, that doing what the officer tells you when the officer is the tramplers of liberty, that honoring the officer who refuses to honor their oath is the greatest dishonor that we can do in the stand for liberty. That to let our brother be followed out and abused while we sit in fear will never make us courageous. That to be silent and to stay sitting while one man stands up. You see, what people are afraid to realize is if one man stands up, he's crazy in the eyes of the traitors. But if everyone stands up with him, they don't even have to draw arms, because their voice becomes a sword. Robert's small voice, that wasn't small at all, was a sword in that courtroom that put fear in the hearts of tyrants. And the anger of those tyrants put fear in the hearts of the serfs. But the serfs need to know that they don't have to live in fear, because we're not of the spirit of fear. They need to stop waving flags that say appeal to heaven, and waving flags that say don't tread on me. And they need to stop letting their neighbor be tread on. They need to stop walking away while their friends are being abused. They need to stop sitting down while good men are standing up. You see, there's people down there in Nevada, and they're saying, do what you're told. They're saying, just get along with them. And every time someone listens to them, every time someone complies and does not speak out to these officers and judges and does not stand up in some way, they gain a little more power over us. But every time we speak out, be it to the officer on the street or stand up boldly in the courtroom with a Bible in our hand and speak out, every time we refuse to comply in some small way, we put a tiny crack in the armor of tyranny. And every time we do that, with our appeal to heaven, with principle and righteousness, I believe that God honors that, and that crack grows wider. So one man in Nevada, in this whole trial, lots of people have showed up and been supportive and done good things there, don't get me wrong, but one man in Nevada, a man named Robert, stood up in the worst courts this nation has ever seen, and he cried, treason. And those words will never be forgotten, and they're an example to all of us to set aside our fear, to refuse to comply, and to, with peace and principle and with the love for our neighbor, including the tyrant, to be bold and to stand up and to say no more. So share this. Tell everyone the story of the man who cried treason. Tell them why it's important. And next time stand with. Next time be the man who cries treason.